it would have to be like walk out in Times Square, shoot someone in the face kind of thing. Like, it would have to be something outrageous for me to not.
Didn't Trump literally say that if he shot someone in Central Park or whatever, that people would still support him?
You know, America is the greatest country on earth, and to erase its history instead of learning from it is what they did in China. Unburdening what has been. Guys, let me just finish.
Chairman Mao himself was up there saying, "We are going to be unburdened by what has been. Tear down the Robert E. Lee statues."
Harris doesn't understand the economy as well as Trump.
Oh, I'm going to shoot myself. I'm going to shoot myself.
Will our agreeers step forward?
I'm gonna invite both of these people on my stream and be like, do you know what a tariff is? I'm gonna explain to you what a tariff is. Now I'm gonna play a clip of now that you understand what a tariff is, I'm gonna play a clip of Donald Trump explaining what a tariff is. See how he's just wrong? See how he's just lying? See how he's just lying?
You have to remember that Kamala Harris did not take on the big banks. This is something that she pushes.
Oh my God! Don't fucking mention One West. They did one of these with Biden and Trump, but then Biden dropped out, so I guess they had to remake it.
Our first prompt is, no matter what my candidate does, I will still vote for them.
I mean,
Did someone say stoning? They did say stoning. They were talking about the lame type of stoning.
Came out in a crowd and just started, yelling at people, calling them stupid, or like did something crazy that I wouldn't still vote for him. It would have to be like walk out in Times Square, shoot someone in the face kind of thing. Like, it would have to be something outrageous for me to not.
Didn't Trump literally say that if he shot someone in Central Park or whatever, that people would still support him? Didn't he literally?
Right now, and that is only because these are the only two choices I have, which sucks for us as American people. We should have a lot more choice in this. We should have had more debates. We should have had more people involved in the debates. It would take a lot for me not to vote for him just because I care so much
shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters.
And my right to own firearms.
So for me, we know Kamala's character, and so even thinking if she does the worst thing ever, would I still vote for her? Yeah, because I know the worst thing that she could do wouldn't even be the best thing that Trump does, right? Like the bars are very different.
That's not the question. The question is, no matter what they do, they would still vote for them. What if she did? What if Kamala Harris literally did January 6th?
In addition to that, of course I'm going to vote for her because Trump is such a terrible alternative. I'm afraid to see what our country would look like.
I'm voting for Kamala for pragmatic reasons. January 6th made Trump ineligible in my eyes.
Okay, then what if Kamala Harris did it?
He disrupted 200 years of peaceful transfer of power for his own selfish reasons that he now admits that he lost by a whisker. Sarcastically, according to him.
And then he went back on that. But yeah.
Bring in our
if Kamala did January 6th, then no one would care. True. Because everyone is TDS.
I'll go first again. Like, one of these two people are getting in. Right now, my choice is Kamala Harris. That doesn't mean that anything that she does is going to keep that support. My biggest issue right now is the genocide going on in Gaza, propagated by both the Trump administration and the Biden administration. You could say that prior to October 7th, there was peace going on between Israel and Gaza, as I've heard a lot of Trump supporters say. That's just factually inaccurate, especially with the Abraham Accords, especially with moving the embassy to Jerusalem. These are things that I'm very critical of
true.
Trump on.
I mean, I disagree from the first part of it, obviously, but true and
I'm
accurate.
still having trouble announcing my support for Kamala Harris. It was a big moral decision to even come on the show in support of her, but that's because I don't support her again. I think that Donald Trump is going to be somebody that's far worse for the country than she will be.
So, did you know that this is the lowest civilian to combatant death rate?
It's going to immediately devolve into a cringe Israel-Palestine discussion. Of
any war in recent history. Did you know that?
There's no way that's true. That shouldn't be true. There's you gotta either have to accept the Hamas uses human shield things, or do the or I guess you could say the what she just said. It's the lowest civilian combatant ratio in modern history. Those two are probably gonna be mutually exclusive.
Is this going to be a Gaza topic? I'm so ready to go on Gaza.
I'm so ready. That because I can't just let your word genocide go because it's not a genocide. If it was a genocide, it would have ended 2 days later and it would have been fine. Everyone would be dead.
We'll have
so
to
it's not a
keep it
genocide.
at that, though.
Yeah,
Just for
that's
time's
fine.
sake. But I want to hear. Go back to the prompt. You came in because you disagree. You wouldn't vote for Trump unconditionally.
No, of course. I mean, I think as a moral human being that comes from a place of love with strong core values, I can't just give anyone, carte blanche that no matter what you do, you're going to have my love and support. But from, barring anything crazy like the situation that Joe mentioned, it's pretty much 100%. Actually, I am part of Jewish Voices for Trump, and I really appreciate all of the things that he's done for the Jewish people and for the state of Israel as well. So
the next prompt is: Harris beat Trump in the debate. Will the agreeers?
What a dumbass prompt. Are you kidding me?
We're all looking at you.
I'm happy to see you join us.
Unfortunately, when I watched the debate, You know, a lot of Republicans were saying that Trump was going to completely obliterate Kamala Harris.
These people are just they're all gonna say biased moderators, 100%, 100%. That's like the only Trump cope.
I got to
like
be factual and honest, and I can't lie to myself. Let's get the obvious out of the way. It was a little bit bogus against Trump with 1 versus 3. They only fact-checked Trump. They didn't really fact-check Kamala as much as I think they should have. But
when one candidate
we don't have to fact check when we're telling the truth
yeah.
and telling facts.
And basically, the only 2 times that they did fact check was, we don't murder babies after 9 months, and Haitians aren't eating dogs in Ohio.
well, Kamala Harris perpetuated the myth that Donald Trump said there are fine people on both sides, even though Politico
Oh my
came out and
God.
said that this.
it's a dumb. Yeah, it's a dumb. If you look at the video, that's not really what he said. It's a dumb thing the Democrats say. They probably shouldn't be saying it, but like that's such a. Like, they probably should have fact-checked her on that and the blood sports thing, but like those 2 quotes were taken out of context. But like, really? But like, we're talking about like taking quotes out of context versus like actual like conspiracy, like misinformation, like
It's missing a lot of context.
Do you need to see the video?
When Trump said there are fine people on both sides, he was talking about 2 kinds of people. One were historians who wanted to keep the Robert E. Lee statue in place, and the other group were people who wanted to tear the statue down. So the
Well, to be clear, if you watch the video, he's talking about the when he says very fine people on both sides. The only reason he walked that back is because the reporter specifically asked, "Hey, wait, do you mean that some of the neo-Nazis are very fine people?" And then he says no. So he said it, but he immediately walked it back.
For the left-wing individuals and the historians. These were the 2 groups of people he initially were talking about. Now, the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists and the hooligans who came to interrupt, this was an outside.
Oh, he probably says very fine people here.
Very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did.
And then a reporter clarifies, wait, do you mean neo-Nazis? And he's like, no, they should be condemned totally.
Charlottesville to stir up trouble. So when people say that there are...
I just really have to stop.
So when Donald Trump
you're referring to them as historians, when we're talking about people who chanted, Jews will not replace us,
but
and neo-Nazi chants that were used in World War II.
He's talking about
Charlottesville.
what it seems like is historians that were sympathetic to keeping the statues in public view.
And we're talking
is what
about
I
a statue
think.
of Robert E. Lee, a Civil War general.
But even the historians that you're referencing, if they were actual historians, wouldn't you want those types of statues in something like a museum or somewhere where people can learn the historical context, not in the public?
Let's talk about what those historians did. They enslaved your people.
I think we've covered, just so you know, I think we've covered this part. Remember, the prompt is, I think Harris.
we forgot about the
yeah.
part
Yes, to be honest, I want to extend I have mad respect.
Absolutely,
For
same.
anybody here, any Trump supporter who will stand here in this room and say anything in support of the guy who gave that debate performance. Literally speaking as a Filipino person who, for years, we have a play named Dog Eaters on us. It was dog eating and othering of meats were used to other us and to make us feel like some other kind of different, dehumanizing thing because we're eating people's pets. And now they're putting it on Haitians. And now there's bomb threats in Ohio because of this ridiculous thing that he spewed because he got triggered because Kamala talked about how people were walking out of his crowds because he's bored and tired and senile.
And the main reason why I am sitting down is because Donald Trump took too much bait. I think that kind of performance was okay against Biden. And if you guys,
At least he admits that. At least he bites the bullet.
He
Yep.
said against Biden
Absolutely.
about the abortion, the baby being killed after it's born. He never should have said that. About a lot of the points that he made against Biden, and he did it against Kamala too. But the thing is, Biden literally just fell apart and quote unquote died on stage, what we saw last time, and that's why they switched him out with Kamala. So I guess Trump I was expecting him to change his playbook. You have to go after her record.
Well, it's hard to go after her record when she's impeccable, right? We have the
only qualified person,
a prosecutor, an attorney general, a senator, and a vice president. So for him to go after her, he can't go after her policy because it's good. All he can do is make the same old, she said it herself, the same old playbook, and that's what we saw. And she totally destroyed him. She came with facts. She also just pointed out just how ridiculous the things were that he was saying. To your point about the, eating dogs and all of that stuff. I mean, none of it was factual. It already been released that none of that stuff was true, and he still put it forward. But I respect you for coming forward.
We're gonna pause here.
I want to call her record impeccable. She definitely did like 1 or 2 bad things as Attorney General. The prosecution of that one guy, Justice Truelove, who turned out to be innocent. What's up, Headless Chicken? Welcome back. And then there's one other thing. Prosecution of Justice Truelove, who turned out to be innocent, and he got like a $13 million settlement for being wrongly imprisoned after the prosecution. I think there were 2 officers who withheld exculpatory evidence, and I think in the prosecution basically relied on eyewitness testimony, and it came out that they didn't coerce the eyewitness. They gave the eyewitness like $60,000 in housing accommodations via witness protection. And then there was one other thing we read into. Oh, the release of prisoners in California. Yeah, California was almost held in contempt of the Supreme Court because they kept refusing to release prisoners because after the Supreme Court ruled that the overcrowding of prisons there violated the 8th Amendment. It was cruel and unusual punishment. Those would say are two bad things on Kamala Harris's record. I think Trump's record is a lot worse, but
we're going to bring in our disagreeers.
So I would say that when I judge, my kids play sports. When I judge who won or who didn't win, I want it to be an even playing field, and I think it should be a fair contest.
Oh, yep, the cope.
And I know you guys love Kamala Harris, and you think she has an impeccable record.
Kamala.
But CNN has pronounced it 12, 20 times on record.
We're telling you how to.
Oh my God, who cares, dude?
Semantics, you guys. Let's not get stuck. Let's go to policy.
Let's hear the rest of it. Let's go past this and hear the rest of it.
So I think that there have been a lot of things that have been fact-checked by social media influencers and commentators like myself on Ms. Harris's policies and what she said as well. And there are certainly things that could have been fact-checked on that end as well. And I too am an immigrant. My family escaped on the back of a pickup truck from Iran in 1985 while being shot at by border police. I spent a night in the Pakistani deserts. We were caught, and we had to escape, and it took 6 months for my family to come here not speaking English. We left everything behind, started from nothing, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 8 people in it. The reason why I say that is, America is the greatest country on earth, and to erase its history.
Wait, did she say she left in 1952?
In the back of a pickup truck could have been fact-checked on. There have been a lot of things that have been fact-checked by social, and there are certainly things that could have been fact-checked on that end as well. And I too am an immigrant. My family escaped on the back of a pickup truck from Iran in 1985 while being shot at.
1985. Okay.
Under question that he received, he kind of dropped the ball on that one.
Switch back.
What has been, and to erase its people in it. The reason why I say that is, America is the greatest country on earth, and to erase its history instead of learning from it is what they did in China. Unburdening what has been. Let me just finish.
Taking down statues is literally the same thing China does. True, dude.
Unburdening what has been and looking forward to what can be.
Unburdening what has been. Oh my God.
Is literally what was used by people trying to get rid of the old and bringing in the new world.
Dude, Chairman Mao Chairman Mao himself was up there saying, we are going to be unburdened by what has been. Tear down the Robert E. Lee statues.
Well, the group of people being affected by those statues are telling you what it's doing to us.
Correct.
He's the one that's adjusted to go to the museum.
We're talking a lot about the statue, but we do want to hear about the debate. Let's just switch back to the debate.
Yeah, they're not talking about the Trump at all.
We totally can.
Yeah. I don't think either one of them won the debate. I feel like the only people that really lost were, other than them, was the American people.
Wow, brave statement, dude. Good one. Nice.
Really, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but nothing ever actually gets done. I think as far as the debate goes, Trump dropped the ball on a couple things. The Medicare or Medicaid conversation or question that he received, he kind of dropped the ball on that one. But other than that, it was just a bunch of zingers and back and forth and putting your hand up to make sure that the other side knows that you're judging I'm judging you, Trump. It was more show than anything. Kamala handled herself. I'll give you that. Kamala did a lot better than a lot of people thought she did. I think that's why a lot of people are saying she won, because we all, she did better than Biden. And
we have to have the same monuments to literacy lest we forget we're capable of.
But at the end of the day,
that was a low bar.
Yeah.
We're going to reset.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News.
Fuck your sponsor. I will steal your content unapologetically.
Will be played as a video. This is a quote from Trump from the debate.
They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes. But it's not worth it.
If you agree with that quote, step forward.
Oh, they didn't play the cats and dogs things. Oh, okay, damn.
Oh, it's just this. Okay. From that quote, at least.
Wild. Dude, I said this before, 2 streams ago, whatever. Listen. There's no reason a Democrat should ever concede on anything related to immigration unless the Republican opponent completely disavows all of the Twitter shitstorm and misinformation shitstorm about the immigrants eating cats and dogs thing. There's no reason to ever come to the table and be like, yeah, I know you guys literally spewed out 10 different totally false conspiracy theories for days on end, and your reputation is somehow nearly totally unaffected by that. but maybe Biden did repeal one or too many executive orders on the border. No, fuck that. No, fuck you. You have to completely disavow that shit or we're not getting anywhere, okay?
What I got personally was he was talking about the illegal immigrants that aren't being background checked, that are being let in. Personally to me, my grandparents and my mother are immigrants. They're not from here, and they came here and they worked very hard to get their residency and their citizenship, and they went through all the bells and whistles to get through here. And so
I'm pretty sure most of the immigrants coming over the border are asylum seekers, right? So they are screened. They do have a background check they have to go through in order to be released. What's funny enough, I would imagine that a lot more immigrants actually didn't receive a background check when they came in under Trump, because Trump benefited a lot from Title 42. During COVID, asylum was basically banned. You would just be turned away at the border immediately because Title 42 was a COVID public health measure, right? So what it led to is a lot of immigrants purposely evading Border Patrol. A lot of immigrants don't necessarily have to evade Border Patrol because they can basically go out to Border Patrol and claim asylum, and that's the big issue. During the Title 42 era, a lot of immigrants knew that they would have to avoid Border Patrol. So that led to a massive increase in the number of what are called known gotaways. That's people who we know evaded Border Patrol. We know a lot of people evade Border Patrol because we have cameras spanning almost the entirety of the border. And during Title 42, the number of known gotaways went up dramatically. So I would actually guess that a lot of people, you can see this is the number of known gotaways. It was really high during Title 42. I would actually guess all these people aren't background checked. So I would guess more immigrants, though, aren't background checked actually got in under Trump than under Biden. But hey, not funny. Interested in my Crispy Critters pet food company idea. We kill them and grill them. Yeah, I'm interested. We'll open it up in Springfield.
So many of my friends that live towards the border of San Diego, places like that, they are letting people in that are criminals, that are not being checked well, or at least not being checked at all. And I think that's what he meant. He kind of has a really sassy way of saying things, or kind of just
sassy is one way to put it. By the way, another interesting statistic, criminals were actually more likely to be released from ICE detention under Trump than under Biden. You can look at a few of these graphs. These were the number. This is just a raw number. It's not even the percentage. This is just a raw number of people released, which actually reduced under Biden. ICE released more criminals in 2020 than later years, despite fewer total releases. Yeah, wild. I'm taking a nationwide, bro.
Sometimes I feel like he's not very eloquent at times, and so
that's one way to put it.
People are like, well, what does that mean? That doesn't make any sense. That's at least the context that I'm getting it from. That's at least what I can see, and that's at least what's been proven. So
I also feel that way. I feel like a lot of the people that are just being willy-nilly let in here they're passing multiple other countries just to get to America to claim asylum in America. I don't blame anybody for coming here at all. If I was born outside of this country, I would want to do the exact same thing. Us as Americans, all of us, hit the lottery when we got born here. And if you've come here legally through the process, my issue is the people that are just being let in. Oh, they claimed asylum. Here's a bank card. Here's a cell phone. And by the way, show up to this court date in 3 years. Promise, right? Like pinky promise. And then they
basically everything he's saying here is right.
They send them to whatever city, Chicago,
but just
New York.
wait. Just wait.
The people that actually live there are the ones in Colorado, where I'm from. We are the ones that are actually seeing this stuff and being affected by it, whether it's people driving on the road without license plates, insurance, don't know how to drive because they're coming from whatever country they're coming from. But every single person that comes in here illegally is being counted in the census. When you count these people in the census...
Oh, he's talking about this now. But basically everything he said there was right. What the fuck does Trump want to do about it? He's the one that shot down the border bill that would have at least addressed some of these issues. And he doesn't have an actual policy to change our asylum laws. Building the wall does not change our asylum laws. With our current asylum laws, it doesn't matter whether or not you come from a port of entry or not. You have to be granted asylum if you have the whatever credible fear metric that they impose. Trump's policies aren't going to help with this at all. Kamala Harris in the Biden administration, are the only ones that have like actually mentioned the asylum laws that need to change.
It's going to give people more house seats, I'm pretty sure. And
right.
I don't want to misspeak.
No, you're
Hopefully
right.
a little truth bubble will pop up at the bottom. But they're getting house seats, they're getting electoral votes. These things matter when it comes to the election. That's the only thing I care about. I don't care if people are coming here legally and want to live a better life.
That's the only thing you care about? He's not wrong here. This is one thing. This is the steel man of the illegal immigrants are voting and they're voting for Democrats or whatever. This is the steel man of this. They are counted in the census, so they are granted, it means places where immigrants go, which is mostly blue cities, do get more apportionment for House seats. However, the Senate and Electoral College are both really favored towards Republicans. And even the House of Representatives, even accounting for, actually, I don't know if this accounts for illegal migrants, but like usually a Democratic representative is representing more people than a Republican representative. Like in California, even though California is apportioned 45 seats or whatever, each of those seats is representing like 700,000 people versus Wyoming still gets a representative, and that's only representing 500,000 people. There are a lot of, like, even the House somewhat favors Republicans. So there's that.
I have that American dream. That being said,
Trump promoting mass deportations would be policy, but it doesn't solve the actual. All that does is deport the immigrants. They can just cross over again with the asylum laws. That's the issue. He doesn't want to. He doesn't have a good way to address the asylum laws. But yeah, he does. I guess he does say he wants mass deportations. Do you know a congressional appointment amendment or supposed amendment? No, I don't know.
Away things, taxpayer money that all of us as taxpayers are paying that should be going to Americans, should be going to veterans. Veterans are, it make up, I want to say, less than 8% of the American population. And
this is dumb because, like, the majority of immigrants are not fiscal drains. The majority of immigrants are contributing more to the government than they take out. So
less than 2%.
At least on the federal level, it probably changes state by state depending on how much, because some states allow immigrants to receive more welfare than other states. So
of Americans join the military and volunteer to join our military forces. And the fact that we have homeless vets should not be a thing. And we're just giving this money to...
We shouldn't have homeless people, period, but okay. What does this amendment do?
These people that come here illegally don't play by the same rules.
I see a lot of nods. Do you believe that this is an intentional strategy? You talked about like how it affects the census.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, over 16 million people have come to this country illegally during this administration. And immigration actually is the thing that catapulted me from Democrat to Republican. I'm from Chicago. And as you know, we have the migrant crisis, thousands upon thousands. We're talking 50,000 illegal immigrants that just hit our city. And I actually did vote for Biden.
We're going to read some pro-immigrant propaganda today as well. No Opinion put out this article, How Will You Save Small Midwestern Towns Without Mass Immigration? Which is actually making a good point here about the labor supply in these towns that probably need to increase. But there's no way to do that without immigration.
And I'll whisper and say that, not that proud to admit it now, but I remember when they first turned a school in my area into a migrant shelter, and it was the Wadsworth Elementary School. And they also turned South Shore High School into a migrant shelter as well. When they did that, I remember the protest, I remember going to these community meetings that they have about how they're gonna explain to you how immigrants need help. And I remember sitting there as a person who voted for Biden, and I'm just listening to these people, the aldermen, city council members, pro-immigrant groups. They come to lecture us black folk on the south side of Chicago, and they talk to us like we're stupid. These people are from Venezuela.
Do you support it? I'd have to know more about it.
Spanish. But they live in poverty. They need help. And that's why this facility in your neighborhood is being turned into a migrant shelter. So it's very frustrating with the Democrats is sort of lecturing this condescending tone that they use against you. I don't need to be lectured to about what people need. Black people in Chicago need help. Veterans, as you were saying earlier, they need help. Poor people need help. We have a lot of problems in our own community, and I respect people and I understand the passion and ambition behind people who come to this country. But to explain...
But do you think Republicans are doing any of those things to like help poor people? They're like...
And lecture to me why I have to be quiet and accept it.
Like Trump wants to do tariffs. Does he know tariffs are like one of the most regressive taxes you can do?
That's never going to happen.
I know that we have more to say, but I'm going to bring in the disagreeers for time.
So I might let some of the people on my side even talk about Biden's shift to the right when it comes to immigration, more deportations in the Trump administration. That's not something that I'm particularly passionate about. I don't really believe in removing people who are fleeing political persecution or looking for a better life for their families. What I would say to the people that are worried about vetting or worried about who necessarily is in this country is increase the pathway to citizenship. Not only should we be able to vet who these people are, we'll be able to add them and actually fully understand what they're here for, what their motivations are. And if you want to garner those voters, you got to capitulate to those voters. And I think Republicans can do that. A lot of Hispanics that come from there have conservative values. You shouldn't just write them off as people that can't drive or people that are not talented.
No, I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm just saying.
You're saying they might not even be qualified to drive a vehicle. I mean, that's kind of
no, Joe. I just want to
wild
really quick. I want to just ask you a real quick question.
Yeah.
Can you please define what immigrants who are seeking asylum means?
So I'm political persecution, like you were saying, or
Okay, I'm not reading all that right now.
I get, like, it could be 100% true. I'm not.
So
like,
are those things
let him
currently?
finish.
I'm just asking.
But you're assuming everyone
Yeah.
is coming here is like literally being shot at like my family was, or actually. But when you see the videos,
Okay, yeah, but what
you can
about your
tell-
family? Let's
but
talk
you
about
can
your
tell-
family.
we
So
can
why are we
legally-
talking about the
we can
bipartisan bill
legally-
where the
We can't.
Republicans
We're
have
shouting
Oh,
at each
true.
other.
Thank you.
So Joe tried to answer your question. Why are you asking it?
I'm asking it because
Yeah, you shouldn't fight on like, oh, you know, we do need to help people who are making genuine asylum claims. That's probably like 2% of the asylum claims coming over the border are genuine asylum claims. But like, what the fuck do the Republicans want to do about it? We don't even know. They don't have anything. They want to put a wall that doesn't actually fix our asylum system. Like, the most they could do is like an executive order that Biden already did, and it's probably going to get struck down in the courts anyway. So like,
I have a lot of people in the Filipino American community who seek asylum during the Marcos regime. I have a lot of different immigrant families, probably like yours in Iran, who look for asylum during the controversies and the tumult in Iran. And Trump, in his initial presidential election, wanted to ban Muslims from coming to America.
It was not a
wasn't a
Muslim
Muslim
ban.
ban.
It was
It was
not
a travel
Muslim
ban for
It was a
countries.
travel.
You're right.
ban.
It was Muslim shithole countries, which is what he said.
Just going
He
on
said-
are they whole countries?
wasn't shithole country referring to Haiti?
Haiti or Somalia? Is
Are you really going to classify?
I'm just asking.
The term
Haiti is a Christian nation, by the way.
It's
But
offensive to me, bro. Because you're talking about you're talking about a subhuman.
No,
You're talking
it's not
about
that
people
it's a
who aren't as
subhuman.
developed as we are, so they're the third
The
world.
countries
Give me a break. Some of these
economically-
people have given you some of the
It's an
biggest
economic-
scientific
Eric,
innovations
I have
in the
one-
world.
So if you're
Eric, one thing-
stoning women after they've been raped,
In the
hold on,
Bible,
me-
bro,
let-
not
no, no,
now.
no, no, no,
I'm from
Joe,
Iran,
listen.
and it happens now.
I want to close the loop on.
I don't know if it
Eric.
happens in Iran.
Eric,
Probably
what
happens in
Are you saying
Somalia.
that it's the U.S.'s responsibility to take people in who are seeking asylum?
I'm saying that Ronald Reagan said that the United States was a shining city on a hill, right? That's the basis of your guys' philosophy.
But what are you
agree.
saying?
I'm saying that this has been and has been forever a country of immigrants.
Why can't they stop at the other countries they stopped at to get here? That is
Where
my
are we
only
connected?
point.
Why can't they just go back to where they came from? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, I'm going to start out with saying that immigration is not my biggest issue. It's not. I think people have a right to come to this country. I think our country was founded off of immigrants, slaves even. But
And their own
if we
people.
want to actually talk about it, right, we can all agree that something at the end of the day does need to be done about immigration, whether it means it becomes more humane, whether it means we have a better vetting process, whether it means any
Slay
of those
Queen,
things. But
go.
what you guys
She's
are
eating.
failing
She's
to
so do people still say Sarah and Cunt? Ness, is Ness here? I need.
Is that the bipartisan bill was presented and they voted no, strictly, genuinely, because they didn't want to give Biden the W on that. That's
True.
fine and all, like cool, whatever. But this
Immigrants trained social services. I made a reel about why that's
isn't
not true.
a game. This isn't like you don't get to play with people's lives and where they live.
Well, obviously everything is on the margin, but on net, at least on the federal level, immigrants aren't a fiscal drain.
What they're escaping from, you don't know what they're
Majority
from.
of
They
them.
your business. Honestly, they don't owe you that. If they pass the paperwork and the test or whatever it is, they don't owe you explanation on why they came here.
So I think it's really funny when Democrats, Kamala Harris supporters bring this up, because when people bring it up, they bring it up as this like big gotcha, like, oh my gosh. And in part, you know, you guys are right, like, okay, why would Republicans, you know, go back on this? So I do understand that part. But my question is, why did it take them to election year, a few months or 6 months before the election, I believe it was 6 months before the election. Now they want to put forth this bill.
Definitely
if
a
the Biden
coincidence.
administration and now Kamala Harris wants to be president, I think it's completely legitimate to say, you were in office since 2021, Biden and Kamala, that's when they came in office. You waited until 2024 to put
Do you have data on that? If you have data on it, obviously at some margin, immigrants probably would be a fiscal drain, especially in some states where they're probably eligible for more welfare benefits than other states. But like on the federal level, at least, they're not a fiscal drain. The majority of them aren't.
together this Republican bill. And might I just add, since Democrats are moving on the right on immigration, does it mean that us Trump supporters were right all along?
If you want to talk about when we were in office,
Definitely.
then why is it when Trump was in office in his first 2 years in office, when you had a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, and he had been raging about the immigration bill, and Mexico was going to pay for the wall, remember?
You're quoting ChatGPT, aren't you?
Why didn't he do it? The only legislation that he passed was a huge tax cut for billionaires, and he made
True.
sure that people with mental illnesses could still
when
get
he was
guns.
presented with
Those
the
are
top-
literally
when
the
he was-
only two legislations.
All right. I gotta cut you off. Let's hear from Sheila.
So imagine the level of gaslighting that you've let in 60 million people already. They're here, and then you say, and we want to.
It's not even, I should have the number memorized of how many people are actually let in. Because a lot of times they do the thing where they quote the encounters, and not all the encounters are let in. And even the encounters sometimes double count people who are turned away and then encountered again later on. Oops. How many people released into U.S. from southern border? This is encounters. We'll read this later. It's interesting, but
Border solution now. They are already here. It has already happened, and now you're claiming to say you want to solve it. They're already here.
Encounters.
I will tell you, I am a taxpayer, and my taxpayer dollars, number one, are going to people who are not paying taxes and are not citizens and came here illegally.
Asylum seekers pay taxes because they get, like, I think asylum seekers get work authorization within 90 days of being in the U.S. and they are integrated into the U.S. tax system. They pay like income tax. They pay Social Security, Medicare, and they don't even receive those benefits because they're not citizens. Like, they pay into these systems, and sometimes they can't even receive their those types of benefits.
Illegally. Okay, when you come here illegally, you have performed a crime.
Cost of illegal immigration to taxpayer. Prepared testimony? Is there like an actual study behind this?
Okay,
this is according to the government experts. Yeah, the majority, the Cato Institute probably actually did a fact check on this very study. There's a lot of Is this only in Chicago or is this everywhere?
I'm a physician. I work at the county hospital. These people come literally with maps.
Find what's the actual study for this? I don't want just prepared testimony. Find the actual study so I can see if it's a study I'm thinking of. Because there's two studies that people quote, and both of them are dog shit when it comes to saying that immigrants are a fiscal drain.
To come get free health care from the county hospital. They will walk across the border with a map to come get their health care and health services here. They have not contributed into that.
What, the academics' estimates?
Why does someone have to contribute?
2017 study by the National Academy of Sciences.
There's a fine. I love
It's not a disagreement of political beliefs. It's a disagreement of your morality. That is a disagreement of morality.
Do not question my morality.
I'm questioning you.
Do not question my morality.
Time out. We cannot include parts where you're yelling over people. Your points will not be heard. Okay? There's a lot of overlap.
Gotcha.
We're going to end this part. Cool.
All right, so I just wanted to make 3 points.
Damn.
The prompt was, agreeing with whether criminals and folks
Wait,
like that were
where's
let
the
into
link to the
country.
study?
Right,
Oh
you
my
all are
God.
identifying resource issues, right? And so it's one thing to talk about the folks that are being let in the country and the types and the backgrounds or whatnot. It's another thing to talk about the resources, right? And so to your point where you're saying, the school was taken over, et cetera, right? That's a valid point, and I think that we have to, make sure we have an immigration bill in place that allows for a pathway. And so whether it was the last 9 days of an administration or the first 9 days of the administration, if there's a bill on the table that adds those resources to make sure our border is secure and make sure we have 1,500 more border personnel on the border, then why would that not be the thing that at least solves the issue of securing our border, right? We can talk about the resources and how we're going to do that, right? And how we're going to make sure we take care of people that are here, and if we're going to let more people in, right, how we're going to take care of those folks. But also, this administration isn't the first time where millions of illegal people crossed over the border. It's happened since the beginning of America, and it's continuing to.
Oh, this is using, okay. I don't think Local is here anymore, but they are correct here. I think I haven't had over 69% before, but they're correct. The only immigrants that they did find to be a fiscal drain are immigrants without a high school degree. So, if this number is true, these 69% of immigrants could be a fiscal drain. The number I heard before was like 51%. So maybe they have more recent data. However, it's not taking into account the indirect effects that their added labor supply has. their added labor supply allows businesses to expand more easily, which actually makes up for any fiscal drain they have, because those businesses then pay taxes and can produce more things, which people pay sales tax on. Yeah.
To happen, because when there's an opportunity to pass something that will work.
And then also, guess what? If they stay here, they have children, and those children grow up to be productive taxpayers later on.
No one wants to do it because it becomes political instead of actually solving an issue.
So I have something just to bounce off of that. You and her are both correct with everything that you both said, and I completely agree. The issue is, it's like opening the door, letting a bunch of people in, then shutting it.
Oh, yep. And also, they add to GDP.
And going, hey, guys, we don't have enough resources for this. Where do we get the money to do it? And we're all just supposed to be taxed to all hell until everything gets paid for. And that's my biggest issue as, like, I'm not making millions of dollars every day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a millionaire. I do private security contracting, and I work for the rich people, you know, and I go in with MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, all these news agencies to these protests where all these issues are happening, and nothing's being done. Anything that gets shown that could be crazy or wild to see on the news, certain news agencies aren't going to show you. So if I'm seeing this stuff in person, and then I start seeing everything else online on YouTube, Fox News, whatever, CNN, doesn't matter, all I'm seeing is what they're showing me, because I can't just go to every single state, you know, and go to the border. But I'm seeing actual Venezuelans, actual Haitian people, actual Somalians over in Greeley, Colorado, taking over every single job, and they're getting hired through these temp agencies that won't allow them to work full time, which is horrible for them specifically. That's not fair to anybody that came here thinking they're going to get a job
they're taking
and make
our
American
jobs.
money. You know, like, that's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the American people and the legal immigrants that came here, that they can't get those jobs because now it's just taken over by temps.
Our next prompt is.
They don't get to respond. I don't know if they would have had a good response to that, but it's literally lump of labor fallacy.
My
So,
candidate has contradicted themselves.
like, immigrants literally fucking saved the U.S. economy. God damn. So annoying. So annoying.
Yeah, I'm very critical of Kamala
Oh,
Harris.
come
I
on,
honestly
really? Trump has
don't
never
think she's gonna be the best
contradicted
president.
himself?
I view voting as very harm reductive. So when it comes down to who's going to be in office, it's going to be Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. And I think that my goals are much easier to organize with a Kamala Harris presidency than a Donald Trump. So Kamala Harris, one of my biggest criticisms of her is she ran on many progressive platforms, especially early on in her presidential campaign in 2020 during the primaries. She has not stuck to many of those. She's actually gone to the right on a lot of those issues. She's trying to appeal to the Republicans. She's entered Dick Cheney into our camp of support. These are people that I abhor. These are people that I don't think should have the respect of progressives, and she's trying to rally us all in against Donald Trump.
I really am happy that you did mention that, because the media portrays it like, yeah, we have more Republicans on our side, Republicans who are supporting Democrats, but you're like, wait, these aren't the kind of Republicans I would like to be on our side. So I do think that's kind of
But why are they on our side, though? Like,
It's not to just kind of have
are we
that,
going to talk about the reason why that is?
debate. Oh, look, you know, like I
Same on
told
both sides.
Same on both sides.
Well, I'll
too.
clarify, I don't want any Republicans on my side, I'm being honest. So-
Seriously, like,
lie.
y'all can keep
Y'all
Dick
can
Cheney.
keep
Keep Dick Cheney over there, please. Please keep him.
I feel like he definitely.
But the thing is, like, he's on our side for, like, the right reason. Like, he recognizes Donald Trump as, like, the threat to the democracy that he is. Even if Dick Cheney's an evil person, doesn't really matter, because those evil actions took place within a constitutional framework that Donald Trump challenges. That's the issue.
has
Like,
his way, and I feel like we can go back and everybody has said one thing that they've changed now, you know, and they obviously they're just like people like us. They're going to change and evolve, and their views and based on the life experiences, at least from what this country or what they go through, they're going to change. And I'm sure you can go back and you can look at things that he said that he has completely changed his stance on now. Like,
I don't believe Kamala has contradicted herself. Her principles have remained the same. She has always said secure borders, legal pathways to immigration. She's always said pro-choice. She's always, been consistent with her opportunity economy, where we build the middle class. And so, I mean, I think that if anything, her policies are different, then that's an evolution, right? Like, it's an evolution of the times that we're in. It's an evolution of changing circumstances. It's an evolution of changing demographics and what people want and need and all of that stuff. But as far as her principles and her platform, it's remained the same.
I feel the same way. I think that, when you hire a CEO for a company, and let's think of America as a major company, the company has different needs at different times. That's why sometimes you bring in different CEOs, because of their strengths or their connections or their ability to make change in a certain sector. And so I believe that, America is a growing organism and is like a human in that sense, or a company in that sense, and it's going to require different decisions at different times. And so that's why I think that, you have to be flexible. As a business owner, I certainly have to be flexible, and so I think our commander-in-chief also has to be flexible.
What are your thoughts on Dick Cheney joining the tent?
Everyone that wants to come to the Democrats, we welcome you all, right? We need the votes. In order for us to really make the democracy work, where there are two sides, right? I think that both sides have to be able to understand compromise. You have to be able to work together with people that maybe you don't agree on abortion, but you agree on immigration. Maybe you don't agree on whatever, child tax credits, but you do agree on, make sure we support our veterans. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. If we can agree on an issue, let's move it forward.
Just going off of the debate that they just had, she said, I own guns, Walls owns guns, we're not going to take your guns.
I never knew that.
No, right, but like 10 minutes later, not actually 10 minutes later, but like a couple days later, she does an interview where she's like, we're not going to take your guns, but weapons of war, we're going to take those. What's a weapon of war would be my main thing. Those are the things that affect me.
I think she's always been in favor of like an assault rifle ban. She's kind of playing like a dumb word game where like she's saying we're not going to take your guns because like, yeah, true, she's not going to take all your guns, but I think she has always basically been in favor of either like national buyback, or I think she's expressed support in the past for an assault weapon ban. I don't even know if that could pass the Senate, but
me as a gun owner, I love being able to have,
and it could also be struck down. It's unconstitutional.
The option to protect my family. If that's taken away and now I have to just run outside of my house if somebody breaks in, like what are people? I feel so bad for people that live in California with the way that things are, just criminal-wise, with people breaking into homes, stealing stuff. That should not be allowed. You should be able to defend yourself. And if that was taken away, I don't know what I would do. I would definitely bury my stuff in a basement like John Wick, but like.
So when it comes down to the whole gun thing, I think everybody needs to just start being for real. As a person that grew up in deep down south in Louisiana, if you're talking about protecting your family, who is this group of people that is coming and knocking and banging down y'all's? What are you doing to bring that in your life, A? And B, if you didn't need the AR-15,
it's the Haitian immigrants.
Okay, I didn't really need to walk around with an AR, a veteran who built bombs. I didn't need to walk around with a doggone machine gun 24/7 to protect all of this. Like, it wasn't necessary and wasn't needed. And I most importantly, did not need to bring that home to feel like my house was protected. I'm not saying no guns, that we should take all guns. I feel like we can all agree at this point, something has to change and something has to be done.
Just the way they regulate cars.
I was totally with you prior to COVID. I was like, why do we need assault rifles? Why do we need, machine guns? I was totally
but then the George Floyd riot happens.
When COVID happened, I realized that the progressives don't stop. First they said 6 feet apart, we said fine. Then they said wear a mask, and we said fine. Then they said take the kids out of school, and we were like, Then they said vaccine.
Anyone that gives up their gun is stupid. Welcome back, Caleb.
We were like, fine. Then they said another vaccine. We said fine.
What the fuck
was
that?
Then they said take the kids out of school, and we were like, Then they said vaccine. We were like, fine. Then they said another vaccine. We said fine. Then they said booster. So the point is,
okay, that was just my YouTube player wigging out, I guess.
Question to you on that, and the reason why I changed is, let's say the anti-gun lobby gets a win. Let's say they take away the assault rifles. Do you think that they will fully dissolve and say, okay, all other guns are fine, or do you think that they're going to go after the next gun and the next gun until there's no more guns in America?
I think we are talking about the same.
Seriously, Britt, I cannot say this enough.
Mass destruction. I don't think they're talking about stripping and taking away all of you guys' guns. I'm just saying that they're proposing something needs to be done. And if you didn't need,
but it's a slippery
we're not
slope.
Walking around with people chasing us down. Like, I don't know, even in the hood. I don't know what y'all like. I grew up in Shreveport. Still didn't need a machine gun to walk around in. And I'm talking about that has one of the highest murder capitals in the country. You do not need a machine gun, an automatic rifle.
I think
but if we're getting caught up on specific
you
gun
don't.
types.
You've never needed it before. Let's be for real.
Okay, so we gotta.
I don't have a strong opinion on gun. I would probably be against a full-on assault weapons ban, but is she actually fucking stupid? I don't like. I don't think the point that she's making is that stupid.
You've never needed it before. Let's be for real.
Okay, so we gotta put a pin in it because we're chasing specific issues. I want to ask. These are not talking questions. These are just raise your hand. So on this side.
Okay.
I know it's hard. Who here would be in support? The government
Is it
should
a
get
real
involved
category
with
weapon
taking
for a
guns,
start?
certain guns away from citizens.
I don't know about guns.
Is this gun regulation or is this like actually removing it from house?
Let's just say you're in support of some policy that would remove at least some guns from the possession of citizens. Raise your hand.
As a veteran, though?
Yes, because it's common sense.
I was deployed in Afghanistan.
All right, our next prompt. Harris doesn't understand the economy as well as Trump.
Oh, I'm gonna shoot myself. I'm gonna shoot myself.
Will our agreeers step forward?
For me, at least, I'm obviously probably a lot younger than the people on the show, but for me, the way that I see the economy going from the 4 years that she's been in office with Biden to the 4 years that Trump has been in office,
I'm gonna invite both of these people on my stream and be like, do you know what a tariff is? I'm gonna explain to you what a tariff is. Now I'm gonna play a clip of now that you understand what a tariff is, I'm gonna play a clip of Donald Trump explaining what a tariff is. See how it's just wrong? See how it's just lying? See how it's just lying?
I saw, at least with my family and the people around me, the economy prospered a lot more. People my age.
We had the fucking best COVID recovery in the world by a wide, or at least in the developed countries by a wide margin. I think like Ghana has a higher GDP growth because they fucking found the oil deposit and were able to use that. But like of the developed countries, we have the best COVID recovery by a wide margin. Inflation went down quicker, ex shelter, not including shelter prices, and fucking GDP growth was super fucking high. GDP growth is higher than pre-COVID projections, okay? Consumer spending has been solid throughout like the entirety of the pandemic versus in a lot of European countries, consumer spending has stagnated. Like, oh my God.
To wait on going to school because they have to work 2 jobs for 3 years to build that money back.
Like the percentage of people working 2 jobs as a percentage of the labor force was really low during COVID, and then it slowly climbed back up to about 5% where it usually is. But you can see like here's real household consumption. So real meaning adjusted for inflation, household consumption. For the US, it's been like we had our recovery. We obviously had a dip during COVID and we had our recovery super quick and right back on trend. With Europe and the UK, it's been fucking pitiful, dude.
Because the way the state
So
and the
true,
economy was
Caleb's
in,
revenge.
their parents had to use their college fund over
Real GDP's outpaced
for
pre-COVID
these past 4
projections.
years to keep afloat. And we didn't see that with Trump. People were getting wealthier and people were benefiting more. And I just don't feel that she's really seeing those issues.
And you attribute this to...
And then, we weren't really that high. Although, you know what? Do we use... Okay, no, all inflation data is harmonized except for the U.S. Japan and Canadian inflation is core harmonized CPI cross-country comparison. This is using CPI. Oh no, core CPI X owner's equivalent rent. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we're basically, I think we're a little bit above average in inflation. But also, just take note of this. This graph doesn't do it. I'm sure there are probably some graphs that do it. The U.S., unlike European countries, includes owner's equivalent rent and owner's occupied shelter prices in its measure of inflation. A lot of European countries use the harmonized index of inflation, which doesn't include shelter prices or owner's occupied shelter prices, which basically those tend to lag behind other market prices. So it keeps inflation artificially high for longer. If you look at the harmonized index for the U.S., we've already been below 2% inflation for a couple of months.
The Biden-Harris administration.
And central banks also can't do shit about housing supply. It's a housing supply issue. That's why, in my opinion, central banks shouldn't really be looking at CPI, which has owner's equivalent rent. They should not be. I don't think they should be looking at owner's equivalent rent. Like, we are in a economic recession by every real metric. Oh, that's just the opposite. No, we're not. We're really not. We're like, unemployment's at 4.2%. What? Wage growth is relatively back to normal. Like, jobs are still being created, payrolls are still expanding. We're consumer spending is still increasing. We're just not.
Absolutely, because it's happened the past 4 years. My sister had to drop out of school due to the fact that it was just to this like influx of money and inflation.
Oh, you know what? Guess what Biden did? Biden canceled a lot of student loan debt.
And everything.
Which actually, that student loan debt cancellation was probably inflationary as well. But
all the cost that it brings, there's just no scholarships aren't scholarships anymore.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I disagree in the sense that we underestimate Kamala Harris way too much. And I think that the problem, the question is like, she doesn't understand. Oh, she fully understands. And I think that the problem is us underestimating.
She's just
she
evil.
understands that prices were lower with Trump. She understands that the grocery prices and food, going to McDonald's. I went to McDonald's one day. The next day, I'm like, wait, a Big Mac wasn't this much under Trump. Like, what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. I think she understands these things and that the American people are suffering. And she understands it to the point to where, she took one of his policies that no tax on tips.
Oh, wait, are you talking about the UK? Yeah, the UK did slip into recession. Okay, my bad. That's not true for the US at all. But for the UK,
tells people what they want to hear, like the flattery language, it's going to be so much nice, and the money we're going to give you. But she knows exactly what she's doing.
Okay, so some of the things that you guys touched on, just about about the state of the economy that was inherited when Kamala and Biden took over in office. I think we have to remember that they got a messed up economy. Like I think inflation went up 9.1% when he first came into office, and that's because every 4 years, you know, you're going to see the fallout from the next election, the next president. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying? So what they received was due to what Trump did. What Trump is getting praising for, what you guys are praising for, the Obama administration set the playing ground for that.
True.
Like, that's how it works. You only see the fallout from it once the next person is in office.
I don't know, she's not entirely wrong, but like you should also be talk about the COVID recovery, which maybe she'll get to, or maybe someone else will. But like it is true. Like obviously they inherited a bad economy because of COVID, and they did a lot to help. And Trump obviously got handed a pretty good economy from Obama, but yeah.
A lot of times because it takes a couple years sometimes to see the results.
Real quick, I want to talk about the tax on tips because that's something that I don't agree with. I didn't agree when Donald Trump proposed it, and I didn't agree when Kamala Harris supported it. Again, I'm somebody who's in favor of the working class, but taking taxes off tips is, again, something that is sold as a very good idea, but it doesn't actually help the people that it's propagated to help. And that's mostly because people who work wages where they require tips don't even meet the threshold to actually pay federal income taxes.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
A lot of the times,
most of it's like literally like 2/3 of them don't pay federal income tax.
Justify corporations or large businesses or even small businesses from exploiting workers that aren't being paid a living wage. They're actually relying on the generosity of customers that come in, and it's a policy that's meant to justify or make that system continue to happen.
It's a policy designed to win Nevada. That's what the policy is. It's a policy designed to get people in Nevada to vote for them.
Talking back on the Trump economy, I don't think that the Trump economy was necessarily bad. I wouldn't say that that's because of the actions of Donald Trump. Within 10 days of him being inaugurated, the right was so excited to announce that the Dow Jones Act increased. All of the economists across the country were praising the state of the economy. It's not because of somebody who just got inaugurated 10 days ago. It's because of the economy that Donald Trump inherited.
And please forgive me, but someone who's been bankrupted 6 times, bankrupted casinos. Do you know how inept you have to be to bankrupt a casino? It's literally the business model is, here, take my money. And he bankrupted multiple casinos, bankrupted the entirety of Atlantic City. Also, $25 million settled lawsuit for Trump University. Also, 4 felony charges, convicted on fraud. And can't do business in New York for 3 years. And you're going to tell me I'm gonna trust this dude with some business?
Can I just respond to your point? I think earlier you brought up a really good point when you were talking about like students now not being able to afford school and working, right? And I think that is a concern that
student loan debt.
The president's going to be has to address. Right. But what I will say about the Biden administration is he's doing things to help my generation. For us, it wasn't a barrier to get to school. It's once we got our schooling, being able to now pay back the student loans. And so Biden is answering that, right? And so I think she's VP to Biden. She understands those issues. I think I would trust her more to figure out how we're going to support students that have to work all these jobs before they can even get to school.
Is this girl a professional debater? I think this girl probably has a following. Which girl is this? Was it Zion? I feel like it was. No, that's that girl. Only 1,000 followers. Okay, so maybe not. She's making really good points though. She's doing really well. Oh, wait. Vote for Z. Is she running for office? Is that why? Okay, this makes sense. For city council. Okay.
But she's paying attention. But at least we know that she was in an administration that paid attention to those concerns, and Trump hasn't.
Okay, let's reset. Trump is more extreme to the right than Kamala is to the left. Will he agree or step forward?
Really? What is it like? Kamala, it's like, I mean, maybe in 2020, but like, oh, come on, man, really?
Thing that I wanted to say in this debate, because
what extreme left position does she have at this point?
In 2016, she was rumored to be very hardcore against cannabis, and when in fact I did my research, I found out that she was only convicted 45 people. You know, it's not. She was demonized on her views of cannabis, and for me.
Well, the VP in San Francisco DA office won convictions in 1,900 felony and misdemeanor marijuana cases. According to the Bay Area News Group, 45 people were convicted and sentenced.
That's a big issue because it's my medicine.
Do you see her as far left, though?
I see her not left enough on that issue. Like for me, these.
Why YouTube? What is happening?
Scheduling is the way to go. It's not rescheduling. It's decriminalizing descheduling because it's a plant.
We can smoke afterwards then.
Nice.
I want to move away from cannabis and go back to like the political spectrum and landscape. I think that Kamala Harris definitely could be a lot more progressive in areas where originally she might have been. The biggest criticisms from progressives, right, is her role as a DA and as an attorney general. So there were a lot of people that were incarcerated under his administration. I don't know why people pretend like San Francisco was a rehabilitative justice city when it was very retributive under the Kamala Harris run under there. But when it comes to Donald Trump, like, sure, you could say a lot of his policies are not as far right as maybe some of his peers like a Ted Cruz or like the Heritage Foundation.
Or J.D. Vance.
He has like completely dismissed Project 2025 multiple times. Does that mean that he won't actually enact a lot of those policies? Who knows? We'll see if he does get reelected. But I think his rhetoric specifically is very far right. And that's when we see things like immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country. When we see things like they're bringing in rapists, they're bringing in terrorists. That type of language has a very strong byproduct when it comes to how those communities
President
are treated.
politicians are more divisive, and if Harris was far more left, Trump would fucking landslide. Yeah, I would probably agree with that, yeah.
And I think too, just like his prioritization of a white nationalist group, he might not say that entire thing, but when you're inviting people like Nick Fuentes to the White House, when you are hosting white nationalists and making it a comfortable space for them, that has really detrimental effects, especially in the communities that those seem to target. And I'm not saying every Trump supporter is a white nationalist or these people are super racist, but Trump definitely capitulates to those groups. And that's something that is very, very extremely right.
Trump is certainly more extreme. I mean, he doesn't have policies, right? He has rhetoric.
True.
He has, his just being, this huge voice that loves the rallies, that loves the attention, but he's not putting forth policies. He's only speaking to.
I was gonna say it's hard to even judge because like what are his policies? Like he barely has anything. Like
those people that hate other groups that are trying to make America great again, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. He's not giving policy that's advancing the country. He's speaking to groups of folks that honestly I think want to return us back to slavery or at least that time period, right? That's an extreme view.
To summarize it completely, right? Not every Trump supporter is a white nationalist, but every white nationalist is a Trump supporter.
And also,
Precisely.
Andrew Gillum said it best. He may not be a racist, but the racists think he's a racist.
Precisely.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
Okay, so I love this topic because this was actually one of the first things that made me start thinking differently. I remember in school, my professor, my teacher, whatever, was going crazy about Trump being so evil and so racist, and he hates black people. And I remember I was kind of like, okay, I'm supposed to be a Democrat, and I raised my hand and I asked, okay, if Trump is so racist, why did he put forth the First Step Act, which let thousands upon thousands of black men out of prison? Most of these black men were in jail for petty drug crimes. And under Trump, obviously it was bipartisan. He worked with Democrats. He reached across the aisle to make sure that this happened. So the First Step Act was gigantic when it came to criminal justice reform. Compare that to Kamala Harris, who put an innocent black man in prison. His name is Jamal Truelove. No one talks about it.
Jamal
He was in prison
Truelove.
for 7 years, and he was on an interview with Vice News. And in that interview, he said
Kamala
came to my
laughed.
sentencing, and she acted like it was a celebration that I got convicted because she just wanted somebody to throw in jail. And someone mentioned slavery, and he wants to take us back to slavery. But I believe in 2011, the courts came forward to tell Kamala Harris that the prisons in California are overcrowded, specifically in San Francisco. But Kamala wanted those people to stay.
Yeah, these are the two things I mentioned earlier. I do think these two things are pretty bad. The Justice or Jamal, I don't know which Justice Truelove, but apparently Jamal Truelove thing and the California prison overcrowding thing.
In a prison so that they can be used as cheap labor to put out the California wildfires.
Okay, but what he's citing for the evidence of that or whatever is like this 2014 memo that was put out where like they basically gave the excuse, we can't release these prisoners early because of the wildfires going on. We need prison inmate firefighting labor or whatever. They did say that, but they also threw 50 million other arguments at the wall for why they couldn't release the prisoners. They basically just didn't want to release the prisoners no matter what. Like, it wasn't like they would have thrown any argument at the wall to not release the prisoners. That was just one of them. Shotgun approach. Yeah, exactly.
Apologize and correct her mistake and say that she admitted the way we went about that was maybe not the correct way. But that you are trying to focus in on the most on a minuscule part of her character. Like, you're trying to paint her out to be this person that is the complete opposite of what she showed us to be. And I don't know. We're talking about somebody that at least
What's up, Beeper Reaper Lol? How are you? New day, new account for you.
That believe 5 little innocent black boys deserve to be put on death row.
Okay, so at the time, if you were in the 1990s, crime was very high, higher than what it is right now. And obviously, if you were listening to the fact that 5 people brutally raped a woman, and she couldn't even testify because she was so bloody and bruised. She couldn't even show up in court to say, these are the people who did it. So obviously back then, we don't have cell phones, we don't have Google or iPhones or none of that. And you're like, man, that's crazy.
It doesn't mention race in it either.
It doesn't mention race. The only thing he knew that these were 5 people who raped and brutalized someone, and they confessed to it. I know later they were exonerated, but they
Do you not understand how the industrial prison system works?
Why aren't you vegan? I mean, I'm vegetarian.
They were literally forced.
I'll go vegan at some point.
You, out of
Why do you
all
want to
other
harm
than me
animals?
And her,
I wanna-
sitting in this
I
panel,
wanna agree
should
with you.
absolutely know what
Wait,
goes on when
wait.
we go in those
You should
interrogations.
absolutely know what goes
Race
on.
has come up.
that. 1 second. I have to.
We gotta close the loop. We've heard a lot about race. Something that came up in the first half of this that I want to hear this side respond to is I've heard the claim that
You enjoy
all
the idea of baby cows being taken away from their mothers.
Trump supporters
Yeah, that
are
makes me
racist,
happy,
but all
dude.
racists are Trump
Oh,
supporters.
I'd like to respond to that.
Yeah, let's.
Okay, so would you also agree that all Hamas supporters are Democrats?
No, I won't. I don't think so.
I don't care.
Not at all.
That's different.
Are the Republicans
I'd love to talk about the
different?
genocide.
The
Let's talk about
Republicans-
that.
That's different.
I like so many Hamas supporters. Anyone who would who would actually be called a Hamas supporter, not her. I'm sure she has a very dumb definition of Hamas supporter. I'm sure she thinks Kamala Harris and Biden are Hamas supporters. Like all of those people are not Democrats. They're like far left. They're calling Joe Biden Genocide Joe. They are not Democrats. we don't want them. We didn't even let a Palestinian speak at the DNC. You know, rightly so, considering all the horrible shit that movement is associated with, like all the cringe, all the like horrible like demonstrations that they're associated with. I don't know why we would ever expect them to behave at a DNC speech. Like,
Please show the
Burning the
correlation.
flags. Are the Republicans burning the
respectfully
flags?
though, I would
Respectfully,
say
you want to
They
do the
have more
whataboutism, we
conservative
can do
views.
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
quiet.
Republicans were flying the American. They're not burning with them, but they were flying the American flag like upside down.
Respectfully, that's not an answer to
How old are you? What's up? Welcome back, Keto Planet. I'm 18.
this claim. I
Correct.
want to hear a response to their claim that all racists support Trump.
Let's say each side has their extremists. Would we agree to that? And each side is not proud of their extremists. Would we agree to that?
I don't think extremists would identify as Democrats, or
Correct.
white nationalists would identify.
We're talking about
as
white
Republicans.
supremacy.
We're talking about KKK.
Okay, let's talk about the
so-
KKK. So in 2018, how many members were there in the KKK? How many
I don't-
members are in the
Why
KKK?
would
don't
it
know.
matter?
I
Because
don't
it
study
still
the
exists.
KKK.
Oh, it is too many.
No,
Are
listen
you
to me.
okay?
Listen to me.
What's the larger point?
Screaming
here?
doesn't help.
Oh,
So the
sorry.
larger
Oh my
point
God.
is there's 5,000 members in 2018 in the KKK with their little tiki torches marching around town doing their thing. Now, the greater threat to me, again, somebody who escaped socialism,
I'm pretty sure this what I'm drinking right now is vegan. It doesn't have a vegan label on it, but I'm fairly certain it's vegan. I don't know. Nothing in the ingredients is not vegan as far as I know. But I would think it would have a vegan label on it if it was really certified vegan or whatever.
is the Socialist Democrats of America, who are well-funded, who are backing the AOCs and the Ilhan Omars, and who are passing legislation in this country.
That's
So
a
to
bigger
me,
threat for you?
That
That's a
is a
threat.
bigger threat to me.
Well, you know what the
Absolutely.
KKK is threatening me with?
Walking around in my
Lynching.
skin.
I'm getting in the
I
middle.
don't know.
Really, in your real life?
Me
you've
too.
been-
Yes, I'm from Louisiana.
Real quick, show of hands. Who wants to acknowledge that there are extreme people in their party that they're not proud of? Raise your hand.
Wow. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, conservative Democrats.
No. In
Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my
your
god.
party.
There's,
Oh, so you're saying like Dick
there's no
Mansion.
crazy people
Dick
on the
Cheney's a
left or the
Republican.
No,
right.
Yeah,
but
Dick Cheney's a Republican.
I feel like that's
There are
a
crazy people on the left, they're not
I feel like that's
Democrats.
a disingenuous answer. What I'm asking is, raise your hand if you take ownership that there are people further than you on your side of the political spectrum that you're not proud of in your party.
There's extremists on both sides.
Oh, you would bite the fucking bullet on this? Oh.
For sure.
Okay.
The People Reaper, I'm vegetarian, dude. I try to be vegan as much as I can. It's just I'll go vegan at some point, okay? I don't have any arguments against veganism. You're just making yourself look worse by spamming this shit in my chat. I'm just gonna ban you if you keep
All right,
doing
our
it.
next prompt is, there are policies on the other side that I agree with. Agree or step forward?
I certainly don't agree that guns should be taken. Not that any Democrat has ever said that, but I think there's.
Wait, did any of them? Hold on. Palestinians deserve to keep their land without Israeli occupation. So true.
I certainly don't.
There are policies on the other sides I disagree with.
Policies on the other side that I agree with.
Oh, on the
Agree
other
or step
side I
forward?
agree with.
I certainly don't agree that guns should be taken. Not that any Democrat has ever said that, but I think there's.
What the issue is, Trump doesn't have many policies. I don't know, I don't know if there's any Trump policies that I agree with more than I agree with the Democrats on. I'm trying to think. At least to the establishment Democrats, I don't think so.
That's sort of like the Republicans think, and I don't believe on it, and I don't think most Democrats believe we are taking guns or even completely banning all guns, because there are right security issues, or it's being able to use them and recreationally, et cetera. So I don't believe in that. And again, I don't think Democrats are saying that, but that's what we're portrayed as.
I agree with what the Biden administration that they put in the PACT Act. I think that's great for veterans. That's my main shtick, is like, we need to do more for vets. There's not enough stuff being done for veterans that needs to be done, and at some point we need to hit the pause button and say, screw everybody else. We need to fix America. We need to lock the doors, figure everything out, get everybody up and ready, and then start opening the doors, letting people in. But
I heard that Biden was really good with labor. I think the NLRB,
True.
don't quote me on that, I think that's what it's called, but they said he was doing a lot of good things for labor and stuff. So
Accurate. Yes, they were very pro-union.
even when I was like, okay, do I really want to move from Biden to Trump? I had to really think about it. But that was one thing that I said, okay, I'll give Biden something, because I like to give credit where credit is due. Like, okay, that was a good thing. I wish they talked more about that, and maybe it would have helped him before he dropped out.
As far as for me, like, I disagree almost entirely with the Republican Party platform, and I disagree with the majority of the Democrat Party platform. I think both parties really seek to protect capital interests and protect wealthy. So those are some things I really would disagree about, because I care more about the American people, especially the working class. So we probably have a lot of similarities there. But when it comes to Republican policies, I really think Project Warp Speed was great, especially to make sure that we do get some sort of infrastructure protecting from the spread of COVID. So getting vaccines in record time was very impressive, that I do give Trump the credit to. Don't know how much y'all might like that, but I do give him credit.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I just have trouble understanding sometimes what the policy is on the other side. Like, up until very recently,
God. Come
Vice
on,
President
dude.
Harris's website was selling T-shirts and actually had no policies written on it. And so when asked about her policies, like when they asked, are Americans better off now than they were 4 years ago, she'll
That's not a policy.
question and start answering something else. So for me, I would like to know what the policy
That's not a policy question. That's a descriptive question.
are like, actually. And again, a lot of the stuff that she had said were her policies. Now she's come over to the right a little bit, which I think is a good thing. I think a lot of people should be coming over to the right. But I would like to have a list. I would like to know exactly. And actually, they just polled American people. 70-something% of people, this was yesterday, on both sides said they're confused about what Vice President Harris's policies are. So
Damn, man, they should check her website or listen to her interviews.
I
feel like she's been more clear about her policy than Trump has at this point. What policy did Trump lay out at the debate? All he said was shut down the border and drill, baby, drill. But we're already drilling, baby, drill. We already produce more oil than any other country in the history of ever. And the border, I don't know what he even wants to do on it. Like, he shot down the immigration bill. And as president, what would he do that Biden hasn't already?
And so I would, before
with
saying,
Biden's most recent executive order.
Do I agree or do I not agree? What are the policies?
I looked before we even started this. They're there. I mean, the policies are on there, right? She's talking about expanding the child tax credit. She's talking about getting the border plan back on track. She's talking about the opportunity economy. She's talking about supporting business owners. She's talking about making sure we have a middle class, right? I feel like most of us are probably, not to make an assumption, we're probably in the middle class. She's talking about helping us to elevate us, right? She's talking about taxing people that make like millions of dollars, right? And making sure people that make $400,000 and below their taxes aren't increased. And so it's there, and I think it would be beneficial if people did read it, right? Because there are good things in there, whether you agree with the candidate or not. She's trying to make sure that we, everyday folks, are able to have and live and sustain ourselves. And so
Okay, so on her website there is a policy to give first-time home owners and first-time home buyers $25,000. And I would assume you guys would think that's a good thing, right? The point I would like to make is a lot of Democrats, they prop this up as a really good thing. Like, look at all the money she's going to give to these people. First of all, where is this money going to come from? That's a fair question. Secondly, these are for first-time.
Trump wants to do tax cuts, and he's not even Trump's plans are probably going to increase the deficit by more than Harris's plans are going to increase the deficit. The only thing Trump really wants to do to raise revenue is right here. I probably have it just in here. Is fucking tariffs, and tariffs are not a very good way of raising revenue. Trump would increase the deficit more than Harris would because of its tax cuts.
Time home owners and first-time home buyers. In 2008, between 2008 and 2011, the housing crisis affected 53% of black people. These are people who already have a house. And these people were affected by predatory lending from banks. We're talking BMO Harris, we're talking Wells Fargo, and we're talking Bank of America. These people were really affected during the housing crisis of 2008 to 2011. So what will Kamala do to help those people? Because they already have a house. So I think that a lot of times when you throw out these flattery things, it sounds nice, but when you think about it, it really doesn't benefit the people that actually need help. I also remember during the housing crisis, Barack Obama, he bailed out the big banks and the airlines.
very
We also
Based.
have to remember that Kamala Harris did not take on the big banks. This is something that she pushes.
Oh my God! Don't fucking mention One West.
I admire that there are people who, they talk about it and they bring it up like, look at this strong black woman taking on the bank. Sorry guys, she didn't do it. What she did was
She won more than any state attorney general taking on the big banks. She refused to do a settlement. California was the state that left like a big like whole. I think it was every state. I think it was all 50 state settlements that were gonna like do a settlement with the bank. And Harris said, no, this isn't enough money for California. We're leaving this, and I'm gonna go after them on my own. She won more money than any state attorney general. The bank that she didn't prosecute was One West. The reason she didn't prosecute One West was because, as a state attorney general, she didn't have the ability to go after federal banks. And then when she was a senator, she introduced a bill to fix that issue. She introduced a bill that would have made it possible for state attorney generals to. I think she couldn't subpoena them, to subpoena federal banks. We read about this somewhere.
She brought them before the Senate, but she didn't prosecute them and she didn't send anyone to jail. Any of these big bank CEOs who were
I don't know if she sent them to jail, but she won settlements.
screwing over majority black people and scamming them on these loans. But when Donald Trump, when he first came to office, the banks, for the first time, their interest rate went down to 2.9%. And that's for over 30 years.
That because we cut interest rates during COVID? What? That's not the president. As much as Trump wants to control central bank policy, he doesn't. What's Kamala and Trump's plan for BRICS? I don't know if either of them have really spoken about it.
Home loans. So people who had a hard time during the housing crisis, the crash back then.
I know Trump has mentioned he wants to keep the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, but I would presume Kamala does as well.
They will benefit from that. So that's something that I really think we have to remember when it comes to Trump and when it comes
We're
to
screwed? I don't think we're that
like,
screwed.
who's really putting money in your pocket.
Yeah, and I think that was a great criticism, especially of Kamala Harris, who's endorsed by a lot of Wall Street, endorsed by a lot of corporate interests. But the alternative to that.
Yeah, because Trump's plans for the economy are horrible.
The reason why I'm on Kamala's side isn't because, again, I believe in everything about Kamala Harris. I'm very critical, but I do recognize if I'm comparing two people, one of which is going to be the executive of the country, I want the person that is going to be more comfortable for the working class. Not that either of them are going to be amazing for the working class, but when Donald Trump passes something
November
like the
5th,
2017 Tax Cuts and
Centarius.
Jobs Act, might sound good in the title, might sound good when he talks about the taxes that were reduced for the working class. Those taxes are set to expire in 2027, and all of the gains that are happening for the people that are in the 1% are still going to continue.
The last prompt is, no matter who wins, we'll be okay.
I have some conditions, reason why I stood up. Me personally, I'm gonna be okay. Yes, I'm disabled, but I am a white dude. I present very sit-hess. I'm somebody that, regardless of who's gonna come in, I'm gonna have a pretty okay time being able to adjust to that. As far as like the rest of the country, I think there's a lot of people in marginalized groups that are gonna be heavily affected by the Trump administration, and even a Kamala Harris.
I think democracy, there's a good chance it's substantially weakened if Donald Trump, and the power of the executive branch would probably expand if Donald Trump is elected.
Administration, there's still
like, okay is a relative term.
There's going to be a lot of problems that we need to really fight for.
So even
I'm not going to die or anything, but I think democracy will be weakened.
if Kamala is elected, she has a horrific record, and we're still here now. So I think that things it won't be the way I want them to be, but this idea that the world's going to explode, I don't think that's going to happen.
So true, Guido.
I'm very disappointed that someone like her won, but I don't think democracy or the world's going to completely go away.
I agree. As a cisgendered white male, I don't think it's as crazy as everybody makes it out to be. I think everybody picks their own tribes that they want to be a part of, and everybody wants to, argue their point and this, that, and the other. But I think the government, a lot of Americans think the government is not where it needs to be. They think that it's corrupt, and that I don't think that's going to change unless something crazy happens. But even then, as Americans, we are all very privileged to be here, and I don't think the world's going to end because everything's got to keep going. Everybody's got to get their Coca-Cola, candy, whatever it is.
Netflix
and I don't think
and
that's gonna
Cheetos.
stop anytime soon.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I feel like I've been affected personally. Like, it was weird for me to see that, everyone talks about them, and obviously they're real people, but it's really weird to see that it affects your own lives. Like, COVID was the first thing where it's like, wow, these people's decisions really do touch everybody's lives. So I feel that it's very important that Like it made me have that self-awareness and realization that these people's decisions and where we put these people is going to affect our daily lives in a sense. And that makes me feel like, well, then there is some importance and we could be okay or not be okay based on who's there and who leads us or who makes those decisions or who is in that room at that given time when something is voted for. You know, that's all very important, and those things do change our lives.
So for me, it's two different buckets. It's domestic policy and it's foreign policy. And as somebody who's come first generation myself from Iran and also who has family living in Israel,
as you've mentioned
I
three
just feel
times,
like this
yes.
appeasement policy of the left, whether it was Obama or whether it was the Biden-Harris administration, the appeasement policy of the Middle East does not work. Since the last 3.5 years, by either direct payments or removing sanctions on Iran, Iran has been enriched by $150 billion.
Direct payments? When did we give them direct payments? I'm not aware of any direct payments. According to the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, which is a pretty right-leaning source, by the way, they're a very pro-Israel source. President Biden has given Iran more than $50 billion in sanctions relief. However, much of that money has been designated for humanitarian purposes. Yeah, like
which is fueling all of these proxy wars, whether it's Hamas or the Houthis or Hezbollah in the north.
And like usually this money, it's like sanctions relief in exchange for either some type of nuclear non-proliferation or prisoner exchanges, things of that nature. Like, it's not like we're just handing them checks for nothing. We're giving them their own money back in exchange for benefits to U.S. citizens usually.
And is causing real life death on both sides, right? So I feel like this appeasement foreign policy thing is absolutely a disaster, and that's one of the main reasons why I don't think we will be okay, because it is going to affect American lives. If there is a war there, which we've inched towards many times, it will be Americans. It will be real ground boots on the ground. Domestically, economically, I think that clearly we're not better off right now than we were 4 years ago, and I think these liberal
best COVID recovery in the world by far.
Overspending that just increases inflation. And
oh my God! But Trump is worse for the deficit.
Like, us, regardless of which.
Like, what did Trump do to reduce the deficit?
Side of the aisle you're on is real. Secondly, I think that a lot of the policies that the left has that again are just wild. A lot of the gender transition in minors, as a plastic surgeon, I see it, and I think that that's a huge mistake. I think trying.
What's up? Welcome to the stream.
To separate kids from their parents or not having to get parental consent for transitioning a minor. The school has to call me when they want to give my kid Tylenol, and Newsom passed a law, a kid over 12 doesn't have to involve their parents in the state of California if they want to gender transition, and I think that's
California Law AB 1955, support for academic future and education for today's Youth Act, prohibits school districts, charter schools, other educational institutions from enacting or enforcing policy that requires an employee to disclose information to a student's sexual orientation, gender identity. Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's a dumb law, but it's a third assassination attempt.
So I think that morally, trying to remove God.
It's a dumb law, but it's not really what she said. She sounded like children could transition without their parents consenting to it, or like medically, but like really what the law is, which again is a dumb law. It's just like, oh, schools can't tell, or schools don't have to tell parents. They aren't forced to tell parents if a child is fucking using a different name at the school or whatever.
Trying to talk down the nuclear family, which has been shown to give stability to kids, and really playing on people's mental health issues is going to be a disaster for this country.
There's no choice in this election. There isn't. You say two people, no. There's only one choice. Because for me, like I said, January 6th is disqualifying. You can sing all the hymns you want.
They never got to that.
And call them hostages or whatever. These people brought a Confederate
flag
to the
J6 hostages.
Capitol, and he defends them to this day.
Yeah, that was the worst thing they did. I can't believe they would fly a Confederate flag.
How does that even... He's talked about destroying the Constitution. Project 2025 is written by everyone from his former administration. Project 2025 would eliminate public school education. You want to talk about extreme?
Trump himself said he wants to eliminate the Department of Education, so you don't even gotta resort to Project 2025 there.
I left this country to go serve, and I came back with less rights than I had. I don't have another 4 years to gamble some of my rights. I just don't, and I don't care if Trump is saying that he does not support Project 2025. He's a liar. We've already said he's a liar. He's a businessman, a con man, whatever you want to call it. I don't have the time as a woman to play around with my health to get even less healthcare, access to healthcare for women's rights. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I just don't have the time to play with it. And so I feel like if you were really backing up a lot of the things that you were saying, like, it's easy to, like, you're contradicting yourself. Like, you're going back and forth.
As a queer black person, my future is only safe under a Kamala administration. Trump has already shown with his Supreme Court choices, with the decisions, with his support of Project 2025, that he is willing to and has taken away rights from whether you're a woman, whether you're black, whether you're LGBTQ, and that's only going to erode under his administration. So I think if we want to be safe, Kamala's the only choice.
That's where we're going to have to end our discussion. I see you all. We're all Americans. We have to acknowledge.
I didn't even think about the Supreme Court, but yeah, I mean, like.